We're going live, and I have shied away from this passage for a long time because it's difficult sometimes to get the concept of some of these parables exactly right. We're going to look at a passage that's hard to understand unless you check the context. When you know that Jesus is here talking to the chief priests and the elders of the people, he was in the temple teaching. And they came up to him asking, by what authority do you do these things? That is referring to when he, the day before, tossed the money changers out of the temple, when he drove them out of the temple. And then there's a little conversation, and then he goes to this parable. They asked him by whose authority he did these things. He didn't answer them. He did say, by whose or by who? Where was John of? Was he of man or was he of heaven? And had they answered wrong, the people who loved John the Baptist would have rose up against them. So they didn't answer their question. So he didn't tell them by whose authority he did these things. However, he goes into this parable. Now, knowing who he is talking to in real life, as he is teaching this parable that we're going to look at below, it's going to help you better understand whom he's talking about. He's talking to the chief priests and the elders, not the people, not the disciples, not the apostles. He is deliberately addressing these folks who are engaging him in conversation, chief priests and the elders of the people. And he is going to give them a parable. And we're going to look at that tonight. Matthew 21:33. Hear another parable. There was a certain householder which planted a vineyard and hedged it round about, digged a winepress in it, built a tower, and let it out to husbandmen, and went into a far country. So this morning, we talked about how we are the messengers. We are the vessels. We are not the main in this Christian life. He is. Tonight, we're going to look at this parable, and that parable really drives home for us, as it did for the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the chief priests, and elders of the people in Jesus' day. It's going to really drive home that point for us as well if we parallel it, okay? So he built a householder, planted a vineyard, hedged it round about, meaning he built protective hedges around it, digged a wine press into it, built a tower to see any damages, any dangers coming, and lent it out to the husbandmen. Went into a far country, meaning he left it with people who are supposed to be caring for it for him. Okay? And when the time of the fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the husbandmen that they might receive the fruits of it. The husbandmen were there to take care, to plant it, to help it grow. They were getting paid to do their job. But when the time of the fruits, better known as harvest time, came, the owner sent his servants to collect his harvest, and the husbandmen, what did they do? They thought it was their harvest. They thought they were going to reap the fruits, to do with as they please. After all, they did all the work. The owner was nowhere to be found, so surely it belonged to them. It was their bounty to sell and make money off the fruit that they didn't plant, that they're getting paid to take care of. The husbandman took his servants, the owner sent servants, the husbandman took his servants, beat one, killed another, and stoned a third. So the three servants, one was beat, one was killed, another was stoned. Do you know what that means? That means they are stealing the harvest of the owner. They are stealing the owner's return on his investment. And again, not only that, they are getting paid to work and maintain and manage this vineyard. They are getting paid for their time, for their efforts. Now they are defrauding the owner of the vineyard harvest, and now of the fruit that they're not sending him. They're defrauding the owner of the vineyard by stealing his fruit, taking his wages, and not giving him a return on his investment. They are defrauding this owner every single way possible. Okay. 21:36. Again, he sent other servants, more than the first, and they did unto them likewise. But last of all, he sent unto them his son, saying, they will reverence my son. But when the husbandmen saw the son, they said among themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him. Let us seize on his inheritance. And they caught him, cast him out of the vineyard, and slew him. He sent more servants. They killed them, they beat them, stoned them. So the owner says, I'm going to send my son, the heir. The husbandmen, they saw the heir coming. And what did they see? They saw a chance to get more money, more of the increase, more of the power. They didn't see the owner coming to gather that's what is his unto himself. No. They were greedy. He sent his son, for surely they would honor his son, right? The heir, nope. The villainous husbandmen merely saw more money, more power for themselves by getting rid of the heir. They caught the heir, they killed him because he stood in the way of their power, he stood in the way of their money, he stood in the way of their control. 21:40. When the Lord therefore of the vineyard cometh, what will he do unto those husbandmen? They say unto him, he will miserably destroy those wicked men, will let out his vineyard unto other husbandmen, which shall render him the fruits in their season. So now he's involving the chief priests and the elders in the parable. He's asking them what they think will be a just end to the husbandmen who are trying to defraud the owner. They condemned these husbandmen. They condemned them, called them miserable, wicked men. Wicked men is what they called them, not realizing that they were the husbandmen in the parable. Jesus says, Matthew 21:42. Jesus saith unto them, did you never read in the scriptures, the stone which the builders rejected, the same is becoming the head of the corner. This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Therefore I say unto you, the kingdom of God shall be taken from you and given to a nation, bringing forth the fruits thereof. Whosoever shall fall on this stone shall be broken, but on whomsoever it shall fall, it will grind him to powder. The stone that the builders rejected, the same is the head. Jesus is speaking of himself. He is the stone that the chief priests, the elders, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the scribes, that they rejected as the builders. They rejected him. They rejected God. And the stone, Christ, will fall on them and destroy them. But if you'll notice, anything that falls on the stone, anything that lands on the stone, anything that becomes part of the building on the stone will be broken. When we call on Jesus, we're broken and rebuilt in his image. But he lands on them and grinds them into the powder. See the difference? Chief priests, the elders, they never fully understood that they were the villains of his parables. They're in the middle of it. They're not relating themselves to these characters he's talking about. But at the end, and when the chief priests and Pharisees had heard his parables, they perceived that he spake of them. But when they sought to lay hands on him, they feared the multitude, because they took him for a prophet. The multitude saw him as a man from God. So finally, now at the end, they figured out that he spoke of them, the Sadducees and the Pharisees. And they sought to lay hands on him, but they could not, because the people loved him. His teaching, the miracles he did, the love of the Father that he showed them, and they loved him. The Pharisees and the Sadducees have hijacked God's people. And they made it so that there was no increase for God, the Lord of the harvest. Instead, the increase went to their pockets by deceiving the people, teaching a false teaching. And when the son came to see about the increase, they violently attacked him, that they might keep their power, their money. Now Jesus, in the time he was here, constantly spoke of the Pharisees, Sadducees, elders, and chief priests, of their faithless teachings, of the shallowness of their lives, how they made serving God and being obedient so odious to the people that the people turned from God. Not because they didn't want to love him, not because they didn't want to talk to him, but because they were given false teachings. They were given lies and burdensome regulations. Now, this is not the only time in the Bible that the people turned, because the service to God was made so incredibly hard by those who were supposed to be, air quotes, in charge of the spiritual well-being of the people. Eli's sons, Samuel's sons, made the worship of the Lord odious. Eli's sons were horrible men, and they were in charge of the spiritual well-being. They were stealing food and money. They were stealing favors from the ladies. And they were making the people of God not want to go to church, to go and serve God. For what kind of God would allow these men to be the spiritual leaders? And here's Jesus is saying the same thing to the elders, the chief priests. God wanted a relationship with his people. They were given the law of Moses to see that they could not do it on their own. But they took that law and they made that law a hammer to drive the people into submission. The law became their God. They forgot the Lord Jehovah that led them out of Egypt. A cloud by day, a pillar of fire by night, that protected them, that blessed them, that made their nation prosperous. They forgot him. Because they received their blessing, they received their prosperity. And this is where we are at today. God wants to talk to you. He wants to sit with you. He wants to know you. He wants the harvest and the increase to come to him, not to drive somebody else's wallet up. He wants to know you, but he wants you to know him. His word, his spirit, his death on the cross, all because he wants to talk to you, and he can't do that in your sin-filled state. He died that you might call on his name and be saved. Restore the fellowship. But the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, the elders, they were making it to where the people didn't even want to go talk to God because it was so hard. When the Pharisees, the chief priests, and the elders were made aware that they were the villains of the story, they sought to kill him, bringing to fruition the very point Jesus was making. But they never saw the truth. He tried telling them, but he never saw the truth. They never saw the truth. We need to see the truth tonight of a good and gracious, just and merciful God. Talk to him. Get to know him. Work for him. Serve him. But remember, he is the Lord of the harvest. It's not about us. He planted. We're going out to help it grow. He's coming back for his increase. It's all about him. We are messengers. We are vessels. We are the husbandmen. And we are to be faithful to give all the credit to the Lord of the harvest. It's not us. It's him. It is all about him and his son who died for you. You're in the same boat as those people out there. There's nothing special about us. He's the special one. He is God. He wants to talk with you. He wants to fellowship with you. When we are workers in the Lord's service, it's not about us. He created everything. We're just going out and spreading the message. His spirit then goes behind and waters it and pricks the conscience and calls them to him. The pride of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the elders and the chief priests, that they were what the people needed when it was actually God. Time for us to see the truth of that tonight.